if I stand rejected.
Yes, yes, yes.
And I question, oh Father, how long? But then I take one more look at Mount Calvary.
Take one more look at Mount Calvary.
And it gives me the strength to go on.
Praise God.
Come morning, I'll walk by the river. I'll rest beneath the evergreen tree. So I'll carry my cross through the midnight. And come morning, there's glory for me. Come morning, I'll walk by the river. Are you looking forward to it tonight? I'll rest beneath the evergreen tree. So I'll carry my cross through the midnight. And come morning, there's glory for me. Oh, come morning, I'll walk by the river. I'll rest beneath the evergreen tree. So I'll carry my cross through the midnight. And come morning, there's glory for me. Come morning, I'll walk by the I'll rest beneath the evergreen tree. So I'll carry my cross through the midnight. And come morning, there's glory for me.
The winds may blow and the rains may fall, but it won't just wash away. Listen to our brand new song that I believe is probably the most anointed song I've had in a long time, maybe ever. I hope you enjoy it tonight. It says the blood is still there. One dark night in Egypt, a fearful time had come. For one little Hebrew boy who was his father's little firstborn son, with the angel of death passing low. It was hard to fall asleep, but one little lamb stood in his mind as he lay there counting sheep. He wondered why the young lamb had to die, why his blood was on the door. Through the wind and rain it still remained, but he wanted to be sure. So he called out to his earthly father with a trembling voice, so scared, crying, "Father, will you please look and see if the blood is still there?" He said, "Son, now don't you worry, for the blood is there to stay. Oh, the winds may blow and the rains may fall, but it won't just wash away. The blood will stand the raging storm. It's been applied with loving care. Safe, secured, you can rest assured that the blood is still there." Looking over all the damage, Satan's storm has left us all behind. The flood of endless questions, sometimes doubt has even filled my mind. The fear that gripped my troubled soul brought me back to my knees in prayer, crying, "Father, will you please look and see if your blood is still there?" He said, "Son, now don't you worry, for the blood is there to stay. Oh, the winds may blow and the rains may fall, but it won't just wash away. And here is why: the blood will stand the raging storm. It's been applied with loving care. Safe, secured, you can rest assured that the blood is still there. Safe, secured, you can rest assured that the blood is still there.
To get started, here's the Spencer family from Charlotte, Ohio, with a beautiful song.
What would I do without Jesus, the shepherd of my family? Lord, I just couldn't walk this road alone. When I'm hungry, he feeds me. When I'm thirsty, he's my water. I couldn't make it without Jesus. What would I do? When I need someone to talk to, he's always there to listen. When arms full without me, he rocks me in his bosom. What would I do without Jesus, the shepherd of my family? I couldn't make it without Jesus. What would I do? When my tears flow like a river,
When my tears flow
and
like
my burdens are high as a
and
mountain,
my burdens are as high
and when
as
the
mountain.
ones I've counted on have let me
The
down,
ones that I've counted on have let me down.
that's when I go to Jesus. He's the one that I can count on. I couldn't make it without Jesus. What would I do? When I need someone to talk to, He's always there to listen. When all is full without me, He rocks me in His bosom. What would I do without Jesus, the shepherd of my valley? I couldn't make it without Jesus. What would I do? I couldn't make it without Jesus. What would I do?
We worship you, Lord. Yeah. Come on. Yeah. I never made a fortune. It's probably not too late.
It's probably not too late.
Oh, but I don't worry about that much. 'Cause I'm happy in the end. As I go along life's journey, I'm reaping better than I've sown. I'm drinking from my saucer, 'cause my cup has overflowed. Ain't got a lot of riches. Sometimes the going is rough,
Going gets rough.
but I've got a friend in Jesus, and that makes me rich enough. I thank God for all His blessings on me and the mercies He's bestowed. I'm drinking from my saucer, 'cause my cup has overflowed. You know, right now, you may be going through some rough times in your life, but I'm here to encourage you today not to give up. I pronounce a blessing upon your life, upon your family. You must prosper and be in good health in the name of Jesus. I believe it on my heart. So Lord, help me not to grumble and complain of the tough roads I have owned. I'm drinking from my saucer, 'cause my cup has overflowed. And if I should go on living, if I should go on living, should the way get steep and rough, I ask for no other blessing, Jesus. Glory. 'Cause I'm already blessed enough. May I never be too busy. I won't be too busy to help a brother. There is load. I'm drinking from my saucer. Like drinking, cause my cup has overflowed. Yes, I'll keep drinking from my saucer, Lord. Keep drinking from my saucer, Lord. Cause my cup has overflowed. My cup has overflowed.
Once my soul was astray from that heavenly way. I was wretched,
Brothers and sisters
and
over there in Media Land.
vile as could be.
Yes. What a mighty God we serve.
Oh, but
The Bible says angels go before him. Heaven and earth adore him. What a mighty God we serve.
when he
What a mighty God we serve. We welcome you to another time in the Word of God, where we study the Word to build up our Christian faith, to strengthen us in a time when we seem uncertain. But the Word of God is what is going to give us the strength. The Word of God is what is going to keep us. The Word of God is what is going to help us to maintain our stand against powers of darkness, against principalities, against wicked spirits. As you hear the song in the background, when he reached down his hand, for me, can you remember a time in your journey when you feel so low, when you feel like you lost hope, and the power of God reach down and lift you up? Oh God, we give him thanks. We thank you for the all supreme power of God. He is able to keep us from falling and to present us faultless against the throne. Oh God, we thank you again for your mighty power. Lord, we thank you for your Holy Spirit. We say welcome to First Assembly, Ocho Rios, Jamaica, and my friends that are out there. Remember, God is able. Hallelujah. Let us bow our heads as we give thanks. Hallelujah. Father, we give you thanks. We worship you. We magnify you. Oh God, we lift you up. We exalt you for who you are. For in you, you will never forget us. You will never forsake us. You will reach down and you will lift us up. And you will empower us. Oh God, you will give us the strength that we will need to carry on. So Father God, as we lift you up, oh God, and give you thanks this evening. Another time in your word. I pray God that you will minister to every soul. As we look on in time, what is all to come upon this earth. Help us to be ready. Help us to keep our hearts in peace. Oh God. In the mighty name of Jesus. I pray. Father, we exalt you. For there is none like you. Strength that person like you that is so down. I was lost. Oh, Rabba Sekete de Sandai. In the name of Jesus. Speak a word, Lord God.
When I turned away,
Lift them up, oh God. Oh God, as
God
they feel so
His Son.
lost without you, God.
Oh, then you
In
know what?
Jesus' name. Oh God.
He reached
Reach down your hands, oh God.
He reached down
Reach
his
down your hands, oh God. Reach down your hands, oh God. And lift up that person
down
right
his hand
now.
for me.
In the mighty name of Jesus. Jesus, we call on you. We call on you. Oh God, we call on you. Touch your people right now, God. In Jesus' name. In Jesus' name. In Jesus' name. In Jesus' name. Minister, Lord God. Minister your word. Minister your word. Speak a word into their spirit right now, God. Oh God, we call on you as we worship you, as we exalt you, as we magnify you. Lord, I pray in Jesus' name. Lord, those who feel like they can't make it, reach down and touch them right now. Reach down and touch them right now. I pray in Jesus' name. Touch the sick. Touch those who are sick in the body right now. Touch them, oh God. Let them feel your power enveloping them right now, God.
Well, I was
In
lost
Jesus' name. Oh God, when we think
and
about when
undone
we're lost and undone.
without God.
Oh God, our Son.
And Jesus His Son.
Hallelujah. Yes.
When He
When you reach out. When
down
you reach
His
out. His
hand
hands for
me. Hallelujah. Glory to God.
Hallelujah. Bless your name, Jesus. Yes, friends.
To get started,
When he
here's the
reached
Spencer
down
family
his
from
hands
Shadow, Ohio.
for you. God is awesome. Welcome, my brothers. Welcome to those who are watching on YouTube. Yes, we thank God for this platform that we can empower our people with the Word of God. You see, because of this COVID situation, we can't have our normal Bible study in church like we used to, because we have a time period that we have to roll. So we are thankful to God for this platform that we could utilize it to empower our people in the Word. Yes, last week we were on Revelation chapter 12, and we're looking on who the dragon is and what his name signify. And we know that the dragon is the devil, the old serpent, the accuser of the brethren. And we look on where there was a war in heaven where Michael and the angel had a war with the powers of darkness, the prince of the air, Satan the dragon, and his angel. Yes? And he was defeated, and he was thrown down from out of the air, and he was thrown to the earth. And this is going to take place in the time of the end time, where the Bible talks about it in Revelation. Right now, the prince of the air is active, he's at work, he's at war against the children of God, against the people of God, to thwart the plan of God, to defeat the people of God, to persecute the people of God. Yes, the Bible says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and wicked spirit in high places. There is a war that is going on in the heavens. The powers of darkness, the power of the air. So all the crime and the violence and the shooting and the looting and all these different things that is not godly Who is behind this? The prince of the air, the powers of darkness is at work. Which spirit that work in the children of disobedience? The spirit of the air, Satan and his foe. Yes. So friends, let us gear up. Let us keep on our armor. The Bible says, put on the whole armor of God so that you can be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. When you see a pastor failing, when you see a church failing and gone into a backslidden state, when you see a minister or a man of God gone into apostasy and gone into a lifestyle that is rebellious and ungodly, what is at work? The prince and the power of the air. When you see mothers and children fighting with each other, brothers and sisters warring against each other, son against brother, brother against brother, son against father, daughter against mother, at war, the Bible says the flesh, we rest not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and wicked spirit. Yes, the Bible tells us. So the Bible says the enemy, the devil, the deceiver, the dragon will be cast down in the time of the tribulation period. So we looked on that last week, and this week we want to look on the beast, the Antichrist, and the false prophet. I don't know if we're going to be able to complete all of that this week, right? But we're going to have maybe a 2-week session on this. But we want to look firstly on the beast and what the Bible says about the beast. And who is the beast and the Antichrist? Turn your Bibles to Revelation 13, and there's so much information and interpretation that is in it that we need to understand and clarify. So we're going to get right into the Word of God. Amen? Yes, so take out your notepad. There are some stuff that you need to write this evening. And if you can't write, you just listen to the program. I have tons of information here this evening. Some of the information I want to talk to you about is the fact about the beast of Revelation. Actually, we want to look at the Antichrist and his power. The Antichrist and his power. But before we get into all of that, let us get directly into the Word of God. We want to look at Revelation 13, chapter 13, verse 1 to 10. Yes? So turn your Bibles there and hear what it says. It says, and I stood upon the son of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of blasphemy. Verse 2. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Verse 3. And I saw one of the head as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wonder after the beast. Verse 4. And they worship the dragon which gave power unto the beast, and they worship the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? Verse 5 says, and there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blaspheming. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle. And them that dwell in heaven, verse 7 says, and it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and power was given him over all kindred and tongue and nation. Verse 8. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose name are not written in the book of life. Whose name are not written in the book of life. Wow. Of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. If any man have an ear, let him hear. Verse 10 says now, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Is the and the faith of the saints. There's a lot of stuff in this portion. A lot of stuff. And people would read this and in a state of confusion and wondering, what is this really? It is clearly stated in the book of Revelation chapter 13. A clear understanding is placed here of what will. You see, there has been much speculation, yes, over the ages as to who the beast or the Antichrist is. Yes? There's a lot of speculation who is the beast and who is the Antichrist. When he will appear, the question is asked, when will he appear? And where will he come from? Our name, our place of birth, throughout the combined application, yes, of history, scripture, and the interpretation of biblical symbols, we can accurately determine, yeah, the empire from which he will emerge. So while we can't tell where he's coming from, we can tell the empire he's going to occupy. Yes? Come on, let us get more into it. As we move through this critical chapter and address the Antichrist's origin, we want to look at his source power, yes, and his rise to prominence. What we're going to look on is source of power and how he rise to prominence. Yes. The Antichrist. We will see how his dynamic role evolved in two distinct stages over the first and second half of the 7-year tribulation period. Yes? Now, let us look at his origin. His origin. Friends, as we address Israel, final 7-year, we will see that history shows us that the people who would come 600 years later into 70 AD and destroy the city and its sanctuary were who? Who were the people who come 600 years later and destroy the city and the sanctuary? It was the Romans. Yes? The Romans. This tells us that, yeah, the prince that should come will rise out of the revived Roman Empire. Yes, my friends, those who are out there, Rome will rise again, according to what I'm looking on here. Let us continue. We know it will be a union consist of 10 prominent nations. Yes? How Rome will rise is that it's going to come through a consisting, our union consists of 10 prominent nations. As their number is symbolic, repeated in the following scripture reference here. I'm going to give you some scripture. Look on first, the 10 toes. The 10 toes and the enormous statue in King Nebuchadnezzar. Nightmare. Remember Nebuchadnezzar, friends, have a nightmare. He has a dream where he saw this enormous statue. The 10 toes on this huge statue. Read it in Daniel chapter 2, verse 41 to 43. The 10 horn of the diverse beasts. Remember, in Daniel chapter 7 to 8 and chapter 7, 19 to 25, and the 10 horn and the 10 crown of the beast noted by John in the open verse of Revelation chapter 13. Yes, friends. Sorry about that. So the Revelation chapter 13, when you compare those things, it line up with what John saw. It line up with Daniel chapter 7 and Daniel chapter 2. The fact it will be a revived Roman Empire consists of the 10 permanent nations is also revealed in the 7th chapter. There we see the prophet experience a troubling vision, friends, in which 4 great beasts come upon from out of the sea. The first, a lion, the second, a bear, the third, a leopard, and the fourth, a beast which was diverse, are different from the others. Yes? We also read how one like the Son of Man, which is Jesus, in the presence of the Ancient of Days, God, proceeds to interpret Daniel's troubled dream. The interpretation, friends, gives by Jesus is these great beasts, which are four kings. So here I'm helping you to understand the 4 beasts. Daniel earlier reference to the sea also represent the earth, our people, our nation. So one, the four beasts represent four kings. And when the Bible says it rises out of the sea, it is referring to people or nation of the earth. Then, on their historic order, from the first to the last, we are told which empire the four beasts represent. Yes? So these four beasts represent an empire. Who the beasts are? They represent king and their empire. The first being the lion. What the lion represents, according to the scripture, the lion represents the Babylonian Empire. Yes? The second beast, yeah, the bear. Who the bear represents? The bear represents the Medes and the Persians. The who? The Medes and the Persian Empire. So the lion represents Babylon Empire, and the bear represents the Medes and the Persian Empire. The third is the leopard. And what the leopard represents? The leopard represents the Greek Empire. And this is the dream that Daniel had of these four different creatures, beast-looking creatures. Yes? The Greek Empire represented by the leopard. The leopard represents the Greek Empire. Finally, the fourth and last described as both a dreadful and terrible and diverse beast. So Daniel saw four beasts, and John also saw some beasts, or a beast coming out of the sea. So three of these beasts already passed, and the fourth one is coming. Listen, the leopard is the Greek. But this fourth beast, it says, is diverse. And it represents both the old Roman Empire and the future European consolation to come. If you ever know about the European Union, you can read up about that. Now, Revelation 13, verse 2, as we see above, this fourth beast possesses all the elements of strength and power once attributed to the three previous empires. So, the three previous empires, they have a certain ability. Yes? Now, this fourth beast, he will have all of those power that the three previous empire have. So this is not an ordinary person that is coming on the scene that is represented as the fourth beast. We are talking about the tribulation period. This beast that we are talking about will come on the scene in the time of the tribulation period. This beast represents futuristic Rome, consists of 10 other nations. This fourth beast, out of it, the Antichrist will come and rule. Yes. Lot of stuff here. So Revelation tells us that the fourth beast possesses all the element and strength and power that the first three beasts have. Take for example, it says strength and power. Yeah? The lion mouth, the bear paw. Because this fourth beast, this is all he have. He have a lion mouth, he have a bear paw, and the leopard swiftness. With regards to the fourth beast, we read it just as the beast John described in Revelation 13 verse 1. The 10 horns, friends. Yes, let us look on it. While a horn is symbolic, it's a horn symbolic of a nation. So when you see the Bible talk about horn, it is symbolic to nation. So these 10 horns represent 10 Europeans, 10 nation confederacy, which will rise to prominence in the latter day or the last days. This is what my book is saying. That the horn represents nation, and they will rise to prominence. Yes? Wow. The horn, the one which Daniel talks about in Daniel chapter 7 verse 8, tells us, come up last, having eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things, represents the Antichrist, who will ultimately rise from and rule over the same European Union. There will be a one world currency, one world order, and it's heading to that place. One world government. So you won't have Trump running America, the president, whoever running America within the time. It won't be like that. You have Andrew running here. Everybody has to adhere to the rules and regulation that is put forth through the European Union. One world currency and all of that. And all of that is leading up to that time. The following is a list, friends, define the symbolic elements associated with the beast. John see in the first verse of Revelation 13. This is the beast with the 7 heads and 10 horns that will rise from out of the sea, possessing the same quality as the 3 previous beasts from Daniel chapter 7. The body of the leopard, feet of a bear, and the mouth of a lion. Let us understand some things here tonight. What does the word see in the Bible refer to? What it represents? What does see represent when you see it in the Bible? Like in prophecy and all of these things. See in the book of Revelation is out of the sea. What is really rising out of either the people or nation. And when you rise up from the world, when you rise out of it, it would suggest that he is elevated, superior, to a superior position. So the beast is going to rise out of the sea, meaning out of the nation, so he will rise to a position that is superior. He will put in a superior position. Out of the nation, someone will rise to a superior position. The beast, yes. The beast represents both the Antichrist and his empire, consists of a number of nations. Yes? The beast represents both the Antichrist and his empire, consists of a number of nations. What does the horn represent? The individual nation, which comprise an empire. 10 nations will join the European Union, as I said. 10 prominent nations. And America, I believe, is one of them. Wings and head. What does that mean? Wing represent swiftness. The 4 wings on the leopard back represent swiftness. Yes, it signifies swiftness, in which the army of Alexander the Great conquer the Medes and the Persians. Because remember, Daniel saw this dream in Daniel chapter 7, and he was describing a nation that is coming, that is Babylon, and how powerful his army would be. And the last beast that Daniel saw is just as the same as the one in Revelation chapter 30. He's going to come with swiftness and power. Laying a foundation here. Thus established the Greek Empire. Look on it. The forehead in which this case represents the 4 generals. The forehead represents 4 generals. Yes? Upon Alexander's death. So God showed Daniel these dreams with these different figures of beasts and all of that, and they were interpreted as men and generals and things to come. Sometimes God gives you some vision and you don't understand it. God speaks to people through visions and dreams. Yes, friends. Alexander's death, after he died, 4 generals rose to power, divide the kingdom between themselves. Yes. And then in Revelation chapter 17, verse 9, that head can also represent mountain. So, while head can represent these things, it also represents mountain. 7 heads with names of blasphemy. 7 heads represent 7 kings. Yes? And out of their mouth, blasphemous things come. Let us look on it. It says that. Chapter 13, we read that it had 7 heads, and that upon them were the name of blasphemy. This name of blasphemy is indicated of how the Antichrist, just as the 6th empire before him, had. So there were 6 empires before this Antichrist come on the scene. And they were very blasphemer. And I'm going to give you those generals' names, those 6 generals tonight. Who they are. Bible can't wrong. Bible prophecy can't wrong, friends. Amen. It says, the Bible tells us that blaspheme the Holy Spirit of God is an unpardoned sin. With respect to the Antichrist, 2 Thessalonians 2 verse 4 reads, who opposeth and exalted himself above all that is called God. So this seventh person, the Antichrist that is coming, is going to set up himself and oppose God and say he is God. We need worship. Remember in the book of Matthew that he tempted Jesus to bow down and worship him. The devil always desires for people to worship him. Yes. So that he has God sit in the temple of God and showing himself that he is God. So the Antichrist, the beast, is going to set up his kingdom down here on earth. He's going to set up his thing and go into the temple and set himself up and say, I am God. Blasphemy. Can you tell me 6 other emperor who tell their people that they are God and they must be worshipped? Yes. The acts of defying deceased empire was not uncommon in the days of the early Roman Empire. There were 6 emperor who up to during the time John was reading and writing the book of Revelation, friends, demand that they be worshipped as God. Who are they? While they rule, they demand to be worshipped while they were ruling as emperor. Who are they? His name is Caligula. 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 The next one was Claudius. Who was the next one? Nero. Nero was one of the wickedest empire ruled in Rome. He took Christian and he tortured them and he put them on stakes and light them as torch. He persecuted the church, he persecuted Christians. Nero. He was a wicked emperor. In those days they thought that he was the Antichrist. Yes. Nero. Then you have Vespasian. 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 Then you have Titus and Domitian. These were 6 emperors who seek worship, told their people to worship them while they serve as emperors. The 7th is coming. Yes? I said the 7th is coming. So when Daniel or when John saw the beast coming out and he has 7 heads and 10 arms. Wow. 6 already gone and the 7th is coming. Let us compare the 7 head to the explanation given to John in Revelation chapter 17 verse 9 to 11. Revelation 17 verse 9 to 11. Look what it says. And there is the mind that had wisdom. The seven head are seven mountains, on which the woman, what woman represent here? Woman here represent the false church. Seated. And there are seven kings. 5 are fallen, deceased, and one, Domitian, the sixth, and the other, the Antichrist. The seventh is not yet come, and when he cometh, he must continue a short space, and the beast, which is the Antichrist, that was and is not, and even he is the eighth, and is of the seventh, and goeth into perdition, meaning hell or damnation. Praise. Let me emphasize some more on this. So, we see that the seven head have dual symbolic meaning. The seven head have dualic symbolic meaning. Yes? Representing both mountain and king. What? The head represent mountain and kings, while the seven mountains are the seven hills of Rome. The seven hills of Rome are Aventin, Cillian, Capitoline, Esquilin, Palatine, Quirminal, and Verminal. These are the seven hills we believe the Bible talks about in Revelation. And these hills are in Rome. Come on now. We believe the seven kings are the six listed that we talk about, with the seventh being the future Antichrist. Six has gone, the seventh is coming, which is the Antichrist. I'm just helping you to understand history, that the Bible has been talking about this from a very long time. And here Revelation giving you the clear description of what to come in the book of Revelation. With regards to the seventh friends, are the Antichrist, who Revelation 17:10 above tells us it is yet, it is yet to come. But that when he does, must continue a short period of time, a short space of time. He is the same beast who in Revelation chapter 13 verse 3 talks about. The mortal head would but return to life. So become the eighth in the symbolic line of the self-defiant empire. Revelation chapter 13 says, "And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 head and 10 horns." 7 head can refer to 7 mountains, that is in Rome, or 7 kings. 6 already passed. The 7th is the Antichrist that will rise. And the Bible says he will be wounded, he will be there for a short period of time, and then he appear again. 10 on represent 10 nations. Are you getting it? Are you understanding this portion of scripture here this evening? Yes. talking about the Antichrist. So we see here, you kind of have a little understanding of what the scripture is saying right here. But I want to move on a little bit into something here. So I want you to write some scripture down with me before I close. 20 facts about the first beast of Revelation chapter 13. 1, he will be a man. 2, he will rise out of the sea of humanity. Revelation. The first one was verse 18 of Revelation chapter 13. The second, he will rise out of the sea of humanity. You can write the scripture down also in verse 1 of Revelation chapter 13, or you can also write Daniel chapter 7, 24, Daniel chapter 9, 27, and Daniel chapter 11, 36 to 45. It talks about he will rise out of the sea of humanity. The third thing, that he will become ruler of the territory of the seven kingdoms, symbolized by the seven head. And that is also in Revelation chapter 13 verse 1 and Revelation chapter 17 verse 8 to 17. He will become ruler of the 10 kingdoms that are yet to be formed inside the old Roman Empire territory. Yes? So you can write this scripture down also, Daniel chapter 7. So we kind of, in Daniel chapter 7, verse 23 to 24. These are proof to tell you that the old Rome will rise again. He will be a blasphemer. And if you don't understand what the word blasphemer, get your phone and type in what is the definition for blasphemy. And then you will understand what we're talking about. Verse 1, verse 5, and also Daniel chapter, Revelation 17, verse 3. So you're writing those scriptures down. I'm only just going to give you 10 of these, and when you come again, I'll give you the other 10. I'm at 6. He will revive the old Grecian Empire. The beast is like a leper, which in the book of Daniel symbolizes the Grecian Empire. Daniel 7, chapter 7, verse 6, and Daniel chapter 8, verse 20 to 23. Revelation 17, 8 to 17. Greek, the Grecian Empire is the symbol for them is a leper. Yes. He will also have characteristic of the Medes and the Persians, the lion, the bear, in verse 3 of Daniel. In Revelation chapter 13, verse 3, and Daniel chapter 7, verse 5. And Babylon, he will be like a lion. And Babylon represented the lion figure. All right. Verse 8. 8. Talking about facts about the first beast. Beast in Revelation chapter 13. The first beast in Revelation chapter 13. Don't get yourself confused. I'm not talking about the first beast in Daniel. I'm talking about the first beast that Revelation, that Daniel, that John saw. Yes? He will receive his power, throne, and great authority from Satan. Who is going to give this beast the power? Satan. And we see that in, in verse 2 and chapter 16 of Revelation, verse 13 to 16, and 2 Thessalonians 2, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 8 to 12, the Holy Pastor, and Daniel chapter 8, verse 24 to 25. Also Revelation chapter 11, verse 38 to 39. Yes, my friends. The ninth thing is that he will not be assassinated, and he will not be assassinated and resurrected from the dead, as taught by some. It is one of the head on the beast that will wounded to death, and is healed, not the beast itself, as we see in Revelation 3. Therefore, all the theory of the Antichrist being a resurrected man and reincarnation of some historic man and incarnation of the devil are false. Right? And the 10th thing is that he will have all the world wandering after him. So, I've just given you 10 facts about the beast in Revelation chapter 13. I'm not going to be able to touch his power, the power of the Antichrist. But some of them is interact. For example, the Antichrist, one of his power that he will use is that he will blaspheme God. Second thing, that he will overcome the saints, overcoming the Jews, conquer many nations, destroy mystical Babylon, kill the two witnesses that we talk about in somewhere there in Revelation. I think it was chapter 6 or 8, somewhere there. Or chapter 11, I don't remember. If it's chapter 11. Yeah, chapter 11. Where he killed, overcome the two witnesses. So the Antichrist is going to display some great power. And many will be fooled. Many will be tricked, my friends. But I encourage you, don't allow all of this to derail you from the power of God. Because even though the Bible is showing you all these power that the Antichrist, the beast, and all these things will display, they still can't compare to the power of God. Are you with me? I know this Bible study is a little lengthy, but the only way I can get some of this information out so that you can understand this chapter that is here in Revelation chapter 13, verse 1 to 10. If you still having question, you could send me your information, and I will check on it and can respond back to your questions and your concern in regards to this chapter. If you read it and you still don't understand and you want some clarification, just send me some, text me and the YouTube channel there, and when we come back next week we can get into it. What a powerful time in the Word of God as we examine the scripture and what the Antichrist is going to be like. Yes? Oh my God. But we want to thank God for his awesome power, because there is none like him, friends. Prepare yourself to meet your God. Ask God to cleanse you and wash you in his precious blood, purge you and make you clean, because soon and very soon we shall go home to our Maker, our King, our God. Amen. So I want to just play this song for you. Ride out your storm. You might going through a situation, but as I close out, I just want to encourage you. Ride out your storm. Yes? God is with you. Yes? God is with you. So don't give up. Amen. Bless you, my friend. Thank you for tuning in. The word of God.
You've been in the storm.
Yes. Let me just pray for you right now. God, I pray
It
that you
seems
will
like
strengthen your people
forever.
as they study the word.
In your night of confusion, it's been oh so long. Should pass your strength, and the storms got you drifting. But the night's almost done.